Well, welcome to Rugby Nation, second episode, and of course Sean Maloney and Justin Harrison in Hong Kong. So the next couple of weeks we'll have a new crew, but standard Iain Payten from Rugby.com.au and leading the charge there as editor, and Tom Carter. Welcome to the show and to the website, mate. Where have you been?
Just been hiding, mate. It's lovely to be back involved in rugby, and thanks for having me.
Now I've got to work this one out because we'll flick to some vision now. Just quickly get straight into it. Haircuts, because I know you personally and you're a good bloke, but the way you carried your hair, you had red hair, blonde hair, mullet hair, man bun, headband, and you come across as such a dickhead, but you're actually a very good bloke off the field. What was doing in your footy career? Have you got over those sort of whatever was going on with those things that you were doing?
I was trying to grow the man bun back, but Johnny Maneni, the women's sevens coach, said, mate, you can't get on the plane to Nice without a haircut, so I've cut the locks off and I'm going mainstream for now. But no, look, I think just growing up in the inner west of Sydney, I like to be a little bit different.
Can we just let's just fill people in on what you're up to now. You're now with the Australian women's sevens team.
Yeah, so head of athletic performance there. So been there a couple of months. It's been really, really enjoyable and good to be back involved.
And you're allowed to niggle them while they're training?
No, not at all. Not at all. Elliot Green's quite formidable at contact, so no, I say very little.
Well, I did, and even with the way you carried yourself on the field in an S&C environment, I think that would be a good sort of energy to bring to the group. And I know John's a big fan, so we'll touch on that a little bit later. But let's just go straight into the footy, Payten.
Yep.
Last week, right, Tars beat the Crusaders, and there's the energy's back, right? Everyone's talking about the Waratahs, this is their year. And then going to Newcastle against the Sunwolves. Did you ever feel that this was a potential match or a danger match, or did you just think there was going to be a 30-point win?
Well, I won't lie. Having watched a lot of Australian rugby, I looked at the odds of what the Sunwolves were paying, and it ended up getting out to $7.
Wow.
Obviously can't bet these days, but yeah, look, it's a flaw of Australian rugby in recent times, the inability to back up great results with another solid performance. We've seen it time and time again, and you only need to look at the results of the last, say, 5 years. I think I looked it up, and Australian teams have only put 4 wins together on the trot 3 times since the Tars won the title in 2014. So there's just, I'd throw it back to you guys. What happens in that space that, you have a great win, feeling on top of the world, and then you can put in oftentimes the worst performance of your season straight after?
For you, Carts, because as a sports psychologist, and you're trained in sports psychology, it just seems like the Waratahs will get the big wins against the Crusaders and these top teams, and the teams that are expected to win by 30 or 40, they struggle and they make their fans nervous. They're a great rugby team, but why is it? What's holding them back from a sports psych point of view?
I think it's just the mental application. I think for big games, you've got nothing to lose, so you get yourself up for it, and you always want to beat the best. But then I think Super Rugby's hard, as you know, and it's that weekly grind that gets you down. So it's the ability to, when a team comes up against you that might have nothing to lose and they get themselves up for the contest, are you able to do your job really well? And I think watching the Waratahs, they were very good at times, but as soon as the Sunwolves got a sniff when Masawara scored his double and then his hat-trick in the second half, you could just sense that the pressure, the halves then get quite conservative or in their decision-making do what they haven't done previously, and then that probably just trickles through the whole team. So I think it's a classic example of what we've spoken about in Australian rugby for 5 years of how do we bridge the gap between what Super Rugby and Test Rugby's like and bring those younger players up into that environment and allow them to make good decisions. Because you see it in cricket and you see it in other sports that the domestic competition is a breeding ground to provide a really good environment for when they go into that next level, they succeed.
And Mac Mason, Pato, I'm a massive fan, right? I've seen him play club. I've seen him train. He's a little quarterback in a general, right?
Yeah.
But he's gone into that game, high expectation, under-delivered and didn't have his best game. But is that a scar that he'll wear with pride in a few years to come?
Yeah, maybe. I think that's a tough, as you say, it's a tough gig. In hindsight, would the Waratahs have been better to put Mac Mason on for 20 minutes at the end of games? Daryl Gibson explained it, that, look, oftentimes they're into the game is on the line in the 75th minute. You can't be putting a kid in for development at that point. But Mac, I think, has also suffered by not playing other positions. So you see guys come into a team by playing 12 or playing on the wing or playing fullback. He's an out-and-out 10. Will he benefit from that? You'd hope so. I mean, they've got their future riding on Mac Mason at number 10, so there's another couple of 10s coming through. But you spoke about Matt Giddo earlier before we were filming, and he had a shocker in his first test, didn't he? And you played some tests with him after that where he became a legend. So
yeah, and sometimes I think for a kid like Mac Mason to have that type of game, he'll learn so much more. If he goes out and has a blinder, sure, he'll be confident. But I thought Daryl Gibson did a really good job addressing those questions in the media afterwards. He was on the front foot, very honest about it, and the rotation policy he believes in. And when are you going to give this kid a go? You're not going to give him another go throughout the year. But look, I thought he was... I don't think he played that bad. I thought he was okay. There was just a couple of key moments where he dropped the ball in when they were attacking the line. So I would hang tough with Mac Mason. There's a lot of good young 10s coming through the club system in Sydney here too as well, Cart. So I'd hang tough with him. But number 10, right, Hayden Parker. Like, can we get some of that? Like, he is sensational. What about his kick from the sideline? And what about this run of successful conversions? The guy's
incredible.
A freak.
Yeah. I mean, what's that, 71 out of 72 kicks, I think. I think that we're up to that. He's banged over mid-20s this year, missed one goal last year. That takes a special talent. And we've seen, I reckon that Joey Johns did that, riding the wind kick a couple of times at Marathon. But, well, the thing is that Joey would have been kicking there every week. Hayden Parker's rocked up first game and known how to ride the wind in for that goal. But, he's a perfect example of... it's a little bit of Moneyball style recruitment.
The other night.
Recruitment up there at the Sunwolves, and they did well to pluck him out of. I don't know. He was down at the Highlanders for a while, but he wasn't wanted by the Kiwi system.
That's right.
So he went overseas.
And you got to remember, Moneyball, they actually never won anything. So we can talk about this great movie, Moneyball.
Yeah.
Rod Kafer told me that the other day because I was talking it up. But he's a freak. But I'm calling you out there. I don't reckon it was Joey Johns. I reckon it was Hazem El Masri at the old Marathon. It might have been Joey as well. But
Dan Carter is the famous one where
right.
he banged it halfway up the field and it rode the wind right in. So, look, you got to have a pretty special talent to be hitting those.
Yeah, and look, Sunwolves, Carts, I know you're still watching Super Rugby very closely. They're a bogey team, right? Are they going to knock off a few more expected champions in this year's competition? And it's the perfect story, right? There's a team that have been cut from Super Rugby and they're just here to have fun. And maybe this whole barbarian philosophy about enjoying each other's company and having a few beers is working, because at the moment it's working for the Sunwolves.
Absolutely, and they're obviously really well coached by Tony Brown, who was very successful down at the Highlanders. They've got a good culture, like they work hard over there in Japan. They're physically really good. What's impressed me is their set piece and stuff. So for smaller people, they're very good at the scrum and they're good at the collision. So it's actually quite good to watch. Like it'll be interesting to see what they can do, particularly at a few home games towards the back end of the season, what type of result they can get.
Now let's move on to the Reds and the Rebels. This game for mine had a lot of hype about it. I was almost hoping, like Peter Ryan and how he addressed Quaid in the press, rugby needs more of that in some way. Like, I don't give a rat's, and that's Rhino. I know Pete well, but the drama going into the game, it was okay. It was all about Quaid and Will returning to Suncorp, and the game certainly delivered. I thought it was a little bit rusty when it came to the conditions and some of the skill execution, but for mine, the fairy tale was complete, and you almost got to the whole game right at the end, and then you think, Quaid's really matured here, and he has, right? And then he does the who's listening now. So, look, but the hype of the week is what was magical about it, I think.
That's just a bit of Wendell Saylor, hyping up the crowd. You want that, actually. You don't want, he's done very well, Quaid, to be understated on all of that, and but saying all the right things. But you want a bit of that showmanship. That's how we still love Dell for exactly that reason.
I think some of the gloss was taken off Quaid by a young man named Jack Maddox, right? And Carts, from your end, a player like Jack Maddox, you could throw him in sevens. You could throw him in a multiple of different positions. He's a pretty special talent.
Yeah, I remember being involved in Sydney Uni cricket, and he was actually playing first grade cricket at that stage. So one of the genuine dual, we'll talk about being good dual, sports people, but he was a first grade cricketer, and then obviously just a wonderful athlete, and so big and scoring tries. And his line he ran against the week before against the Sharks to score off a sort of a really nothing play. He's been the standout winger.
Was it just that he was outpacing Lucan, or he's gained some real gas?
No, he's definitely improved.
Because he accelerated, then put the brakes on, because he didn't want to get ahead of the kick. And then he's gone again to get past it. It looked like, I don't know whether, as I say, it's just that he was racing a lock, but it looks like he's gained a yard or two a pace.
We talk about the Wallabies attack, but what about having an option where you could kick to both he and Israel Folau? Like, how hard would that be to defend? Particularly if you've got Ben Smith. The All Blacks aren't exactly extremely tall in the back three. For me, it's quite appealing from a tactical perspective.
Maddox is a lock for a Wallabies win, no doubt about it.
He's calling it.
Yeah,
Okay,
easy.
righto.
Easy. I mean, if you want guys in World Cup years to be putting their hands up and playing well week in, week out, Maddox is all over it.
Let's talk about the Quade Cooper factor, and I don't think it was the flair or the media leading up, and I call them quarterbacks, fly halves in rugby, but his game management was far superior to the Reds, and I think that's what got them in the end, is just having a player of his experience to be able to go, okay, well, I'll take you through here, taking nice and control. They handled the rock a lot better. Then you look across to the other side. Reds don't have that yet. Well, they got Samu as their leader in their sort of decision making.
It was a tale of two teams, right? Quade is exemplifying everything that's going right for the Rebels. They're playing very good structured game, ticking all the boxes. The Reds, they're missing a game manager, a playmaker. It's still a bit toss it to Samu kind of game that they've had, and that's what hurts the Reds fans so much, is they paid for Quade to play that game. They're footing his wages for all these reasons that we know about.
He's not there,
I understand that, but the Reds fans sitting in the stands, that decision's been made for them, obviously.
That's a fair shout. Forgetting the Reds, Pato, because I know that you're a big fan of the Rebels this year. They're 4 from 6.
Yep.
Are they the Australian conference favourites at the moment?
Yeah, I said last week if the Waratahs could maintain their defensive strength and organisation, they would be, but that went out the window with a pretty poor performance. Look, and the Rebels, they're 4 from 6. They're sitting a legitimate third in Super Rugby at the moment. You could argue that Lions game was one they let get away. They could have been 5 from 6. Doing so much right. No, look, I'd throw it back to you blokes who know a lot more about footy than me. Why is Dave Vessels so successful this year, Cuts? Like, they're playing really flat to the line, which takes me back to that Jake White Brumbies era. But as Goog said last week, that's built off the back of great forwards. Like, it intrigues me why it's going right for them this year.
Well, I think they've got some of the best backroom staff in rugby, and I think what they've done is culturally, they've worked out how they want to play, and I think Quade's really complemented Will. I think last year when Will didn't play, they struggled a little bit, but they're winning the gain line. They've got a power game. If you take away the second half against the Lions, I honestly think that they can finish second in the competition. And I think that they're, not lay down misères, but I think they'll be very, very hard to beat for the Australian Conference. If they can get a little bit fitter, they probably win that Lions game.
I'll tell you the thing that will be interesting, Hass, is that this was the time last year that they fell off the cliff. Remember, they lost 5 on the trot, and Dave Vessels said, start of last year, they went away from what was working for them, and he took responsibility for that. So this is the critical period coming up for them. They've got the Sunwolves in Melbourne this week. What I'd like to really see is that they don't rest anyone for this game. There's a really intriguing theory, is like, everyone's got to get through some resting obligations for the Wallabies. Do you rest your players against a lesser team like the Sunwolves, or do you just go full bore and try and smash them with your strongest players? Because all points are the same at the end of the year, aren't they? Like that.
It's an interesting one.
I would rest players against the Crusaders and just go.
That's the Moneyball effect.
Yeah, no one wants to. No one will admit it. No one's going to sit there and go, we can't beat the Crusaders, but we're going to smash the Sunwolves, and that we're going to take our 5 points and
move on. So the Brumbies can't beat the Crusaders this weekend?
That's an interesting question. I'd say no. I mean, I think the Crusaders at home.
Don't sit on the fence.
No, it's going to be. Crusaders are playing at home for the first time since the shootings, obviously. They smashed the Hurricanes last week. Like, how many times do you see the Crusaders put 2 bad performances in a row? You just don't see it.
No, we don't. But this Brumbies game will be interesting because I reckon right now Michael Checker's looking at spots for Wallabies. Yeah, and he will be watching them against the Crusaders. And just the Brumbies are a side have proved to me this year that they've got upsets in them, but doing it against the Crusaders team that played so well against the Canes last week, they were ridiculous. Can the Brumbies do it, Carts?
Go Carts.
No, I don't think they can.
Okay, good answer. Pato?
Yeah, I mean, for all those reasons we just spoke about, and the fact that the Crusaders are so relentless. They are. I think we saw their blip at the SCG, and this is a sort of joint that has one blip a year.
Well, I played in 2011 their first home game in Tasman after the earthquake, and it was, well, I think we scored the first try at Nelson, and then I think Hanger threw a couple of intercepts to Robbie Fruin. Robbie Fruin ran around me a couple of times, but my point being is that there was a sort of a palpable emotive effect on that night, that you just knew they were playing for something greater than themselves. So I'd assume they'd be very disappointed with how they went against the Waratahs.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I'm supporting what you're about to say. I suggest is that I think they'll be pretty up for it and hard to beat.
Yeah, and the other thing that defines them, apart from being so bloody good, is that they have that connection with their Christchurch community, and like it's one of the best in Super Rugby.
Tom,
yes,
Waratahs and Blues. I think you played back in 2000. Was it 2009 or 2010?
2009.
Yeah, right. It's a hard place to win, and now they got 3 in a row. This Waratah side that beat the Crusaders and all of a sudden were the champion side, and now facing a really must-win game. And do you think they can do it?
Well, funnily enough, the 5'8" that night was Daniel Hellengarten. He's the assistant coach for the Blues.
Yeah, right.
Now,
yeah. What was that? The first time in
81 years.
81 years you guys won over there.
Yeah,
so Eden Park, an incredible place to play. I know they're talking about resting Iain and then the other Blues player who's going to be reported or suspended. I think it's a really, really tough task for them. I think the Blues have been building. They've got Leon McDonald, who you spoke about, Scott Robinson. I think Leon McDonald is a very, very good coach. He's working with Tana Umaga. I think the Blues are on the up massively, and I just think that it's going to be a really big challenge. I think they've come out and said that they need to match them up front, but the Blues are now mixing the flair that they've always had from unstructured stuff with a pretty workmanlike forward pack, and they've got a couple of. I like the red-headed number 6 there. I like his hairstyle.
Is it natural red?
It's natural red, but I just like how it's long and luscious, and it's just got a bit of different shapes to it.
Any tips in there? No,
not yet.
Okay, right. But one player that I used to love for the Blues, it's a bit of a throwback, and I sort of think rugby misses the likes of these players. Did you play against Thou?
Yeah, I played sevens against him once.
In 2003 and 2004, there were some pretty magical years for this machine.
Devine back at halfback. Now Rupeni going to have Kunway on off, straight past him, straight past Alan Major. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he could just open up a game, and he had the speed for someone so big, and he could change direction and then just burn people for fun.
And massive seat, like it's these Fijians with these massive seats, and they're just powerful. Yeah. Really annoyed me because that's the only thing I lacked in footy. Not a big seat. I got a nice.
Sorry, did you say the only thing?
Well, there'd be a few, but just genuine gas. If I could go back to the rugby gods and ask for one thing throughout my career, just one. It would be just genuine speed.
In 2008, we played the Blues, and you made a line break, and I think you cookied up after 30 minutes. And funnily enough, I saw the footage.
It was against the Blues,
wasn't it?
It was
Yeah. If you passed me, I would have got a try.
No, that's I got tackled, long ball place. We scored next phase, got the bonus point. Joe Rokethoko, he tackled me he gained pace on me so quick, he actually flew over the top of me. And I'm not going to throw it to you. Because I was quicker than you.
There's some speculation that you actually stopped. Is that right? Or you were just going so slow by the end?
Allianz or SFS, whatever you call it, there's a lot of sand, right, on the pitch, and they put the sand over it a lot. I think there was a couple of sand pits. This one you might be leaning towards New South Wales Super W final this weekend at Leichhardt Oval on Sunday, 4:30. The quality of rugby in this competition this year, far better than last year, and it will only get better. And we've got a Wallaroos and Black Ferns test this year. Waratah's unbeaten for 2 years now. Reds last week a little bit shaky. The Brumbies scared them early on, but can you really see anything but a sky blue W this Sunday?
Look, I can, actually. I was really impressed by Queensland last week. They're very physical, hugely physical, and it's always a question mark when you have the week off. Some people like it, some people don't. I'm a big fan of playing through that period and just rolling forward. They only, I think we're talking 1 or 2 points have separated these teams the last couple of times they've played. Doesn't take much for Queensland to flip that switch. So, yeah, look, New South Wales have had a bit of a stilted season, had a bye in round 2. They've sort of come together with some form. Beat Queensland, obviously, but that week off, question mark for me.
Well, you're delusional Carts?
Alicia Fakasilia, who plays 12 for the Queensland Reds, has had a little bit of involvement in the Sevens program. Incredible ball carrier, I think only just 18 years of age. I agree with Payten. I think whilst Grace Hamilton and Ash Houston give New South Wales a significant advantage, I think the Reds' physicality and their ability to win the game, I'm telling you, I think it'll be a lot closer than people think.
All right, they'll put 20 on them. Right, I saw them play last week. They did improve in the second half. New South Wales have been travelling in second gear. They'll put plenty on them. This weekend, what I'm nervous about, Carts, now that you're gone from being a fashion icon, Super Rugby player, cricket umpire, whatever you've been doing, now running women's sevens in the high performance. So this weekend, right, and I know you're close to the sevens program now, you could not think of a worse pool to be in. Fiji, New Zealand and Kenya holds a very special place in your heart as well, because you were the first, the first Australian team to lose to them?
Yeah, we were in 2003. My brother was captain, and on the Saturday night up there in front of a full house, they were screaming, obviously supporting Kenya. And
so it was the crowd's fault, was it?
Oh well, mate, it was pretty confrontational. I'll tell you what, I've had some low moments in my sporting career, but I'm pleasantly surprised when Kenya challenge our men these days, because back then I felt like a very isolated human being.
How are they going to go?
I actually think they're going to do better than people expect. I think getting Fiji and New Zealand early on is a good thing in the tournament, but they've put together 4 and 5 really good games. They've got to do 6 to be successful in the tournament. So I think having Morris Longbottom back, and there's a young kid called Lockie Miller who is going to make his debut, really, really good player. I think they're going to go well. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm actually going to say that they'll get through to the Cup.
Picking Queensland in the Super W final, and you're picking, okay, righto. Payten, how do you think the Aussies will go? And I know you're pretty close to the group as far as know Walshy well, and he's sort of in a bit of a, I won't call it transition, but rebuilding or building confidence back in this team, and got some familiar faces around, like Henry Vanderglass is around, and you saw Rocket Rod Davies play the other week. So doing a good job, Walshy, but how do you think they'll go this weekend?
This is the problem with having a really off tournament. They finished 9th in Vancouver, so you fall down into the 3rd basket of balls picked out, so Fiji, New Zealand and then Australia. Can they beat one or both of New Zealand? Probably one, to be realistic. They've shown that they can handle Fiji okay. They're quite confident when they play Fiji, which is a strange thing given how amazing they are. So that's bizarrely enough, that's the one they need to target to try and win. Can they do it? Yeah, they've proved they can, but I guess what we've seen the whole time, mate, is that once they get one good performance, it's not pack up shop and think that the tournament's over. You know, you got to get past the quarterfinals. They've only made the semis once this season. This team has to really start finding some more gears, or we're headed to Oceania playoff.
Guys, thanks so much. Good call, good chat, and it's good that we can all just talk footy and the good things and bad things. But we've also great Super Rugby season final this weekend, Hong Kong Sevens. And we're all bringing you the preview from Rugby Nation. So we'll see you here next week. Shawnee Maloney and Justin will both be on again, so it's going to be the same usual suspects, but we look forward to bringing you plenty more rugby content right here on Rugby.com.au.